The transmission came through broken and desperate, cutting across 17 different frequencies at once. Ambassador Sierra's feathers flattened against her skull as she listened to the words no one on Station Meridian 7 wanted to hear. Crash and war fleet detected. 23 vessels. Arrival in 6 hours. The research station had never been built for war. It floated in orbit around a resource-rich moon, home to scientists from 12 different species who studied minerals and mapped star charts. 40 security officers protected them from pirates. Nothing more. Commander Yuri Volkov stood beside the ambassador, his human face showing none of the panic spreading through the control room. Around them, Draymari technicians clicked their mandibles in fear. Valani assistants chirped anxiously. Even Warden Olu, the massive arthropod who led station security, shifted his weight from leg to leg. "We cannot fight them," Sierra said. Her voice trembled. "The Crashan Dominion has conquered 60 systems. Their soldiers exist only to kill." Volkov nodded slowly. "Then we call for help." Dr. Preet Sharma rushed into the room, data pads clutched in her human hands. Coalition Command responded. "Their nearest fleet is 12 hours away. They cannot reach us in time." Sierra closed her eyes. 12 hours. The Crashans would give them 6 at most before attacking. By the time help arrived, everyone on this station would be dead or enslaved. "There is another option," Volkov said quietly. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. The human walked to a secondary communication console and entered a long string of codes. Sierra recognized the frequency. It was a direct line to Earth Unified Command, used only for emergencies involving human personnel. "Commander Volkov to Earth Command. Station Meridian 7 is under imminent threat. Crashan war fleet approaching. Requesting immediate military support. Coalition forces cannot arrive in time. Alien civilian population of 3,000. Repeat, 3,000 non-combatants require protection." Static filled the speakers. Then a human voice responded, calm and professional. "Acknowledged, Station Meridian 7. Reinforcements en route. Hold your position." The transmission ended. Sierra stared at Volkov in confusion. "Your nearest military base is further than coalition forces. How can Earth send help faster?" Volkov smiled. It was not a happy expression. "Because we were already moving the moment your distress call went out. The 47th Rapid Response Battalion was deployed before you even finished speaking." "Impossible," Warden Olu said. His translator crackled with disbelief. "Jump calculations alone require hours of preparation. No species can respond so quickly." "Humans can," Volkov replied. The next 3 hours passed in terror. The Crashan fleet grew larger on every sensor sweep. Station personnel prepared for evacuation, though everyone knew there was nowhere to run. The enemy ships formed a blockade around every escape route. Then Admiral Voss of the Crashan Dominion broadcast his demands. "Surrender your station unconditionally. All personnel will submit to processing. Resistance will result in complete destruction. You have 3 hours to comply." Processing. Sierra knew what that meant. Slave camps. Medical experiments. Death for anyone deemed useless. A doctor. Sharma found her in the observation deck, watching the enemy fleet through the viewport. The Crashan ships were ugly and brutal, covered in weapons designed only to destroy. "How are you so calm?" Sierra asked the human scientist. Sharma sat beside her. "I am not calm. I am terrified. But I trust Volkov. If he says help is coming, then help is coming." "Your species confuses me," Sierra admitted. "You have been part of the coalition for only 30 years. This station has no strategic value. Why would Earth send soldiers to die for us?" Sharma looked at her with those strange, soft eyes that humans possessed. "Because you asked." Sierra did not understand. No species risked their soldiers for strangers. War was expensive. Lives were valuable. The coalition itself operated on careful calculations of benefit and cost. The 3 hours ended. Admiral Voss appeared on every screen throughout the station. His Crashan features were hard and cruel, scales gleaming under harsh light. "Your time has expired. Prepare for death." The first weapons began to charge, and then space itself tore open. 17 points of light erupted around the station, each one a ship emerging from jump space. Human vessels, bristling with weapons, their hulls painted with symbols Sierra did not recognize. A new voice cut across all channels, drowning out the Crashan admiral. This is Colonel Amara Okonkwo, commanding the 47th Rapid Response Battalion, Earth Unified Forces. Station Meridian 7 is now under human protection. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. Sira watched the sensor displays in shock. The human fleet was smaller than the Krashen force, only 17 ships against 23. But something about their formation made her feathers stand on end. The Krashens had positioned themselves to intimidate and threaten. The humans had positioned themselves to fight. Warden Olu appeared beside her, his massive form trembling. They brought troop transports, he said. Medical ships. Supply vessels. This is not a rescue force. Then what is it? Sira asked. An invasion fleet. They came prepared to stay forever if necessary. Admiral Voss laughed across the communication channel. 17 ships against my armada? I have conquered species far more powerful than humans. Colonel Okonkwo's response was simple. Then come and try. The Krashen fleet opened fire, and humanity answered. Plasma fire lit the void like dying stars. Ambassador Sira had witnessed naval battles before. The coalition trained its officers to fight defensively, to minimize losses, to retreat when odds turned unfavorable. War was mathematics. Casualties were calculated. Victory meant survival. Humans fought differently. The 47th Rapid Response Battalion did not hold position. They did not wait for the enemy to come to them. The moment firing began, Colonel Okonkwo's ships surged forward into the Krashen formation like wolves charging into prey. They are insane, Warden Olu whispered. Dr. Sharma stood beside the alien security chief, watching the battle unfold on tactical displays. No, they are aggressive. There is a difference. A human destroyer took 3 direct hits to its forward hull. Any coalition ship would have retreated for repairs. The human vessel kept advancing, its weapons still firing, its crew still fighting despite alarms that surely screamed throughout its corridors. Lieutenant Fatima Hassan's voice crackled through station speakers, coordinating the human fleet with crisp efficiency. Delta Wing, flank right. Cut off their retreat vector. Bravo Wing, concentrate fire on their carrier. Do not let them launch fighters. The Krashens had more ships. They had larger guns. They had centuries of conquest behind them. But the humans moved faster. Sira watched a human frigate perform a maneuver that should have killed its entire crew. The ship twisted at angles that would have shattered Villani bones, executing a turn so sharp that the G-forces would have rendered any other species unconscious. The frigate emerged behind a Krashen cruiser and tore it apart before the enemy could react. How are they surviving those accelerations? Olu asked. Commander Volkov answered from across the control room. Humans evolved on a high-gravity world. Our bodies can withstand forces that would destroy most species. Our pilots trained to operate at the edge of what is physically possible. That is terrifying, Olu said. Yes, Volkov agreed. It is. Admiral Voss was screaming orders across open channels. His confident voice had grown sharp with frustration. He had expected the humans to fall quickly, to break and flee like so many species before them. Instead, his fleet was taking losses it could not afford. 2 Krashen destroyers exploded in quick succession. A third tried to retreat and was hunted down by a human cruiser that refused to let it escape. But the Krashens still outnumbered the humans. And Admiral Voss had one final strategy. Launch boarding pods, he commanded. Take the station. They cannot protect it and fight us at the same time. 30 boarding pods erupted from Krashen ships, each one carrying elite shock troops bred for close combat. The pods were fast and armored, designed to punch through station hulls and deliver soldiers directly into enemy territory. Brace for impact. Warden Olu ordered his security teams. All personnel, fall back to defensive positions. The first pod struck the station like fists. Metal screamed and tore. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. And then the Krashens poured inside. Sira saw them on the security feeds. Massive reptilian warriors, armored in black, carrying weapons that could cut through walls. They moved with brutal efficiency, killing anything in their path. Olu's security officers tried to fight back. They lasted seconds. Evacuate all personnel to the central hub, Sira ordered. We cannot stop them. But then she noticed something strange on the feeds. Human soldiers were already in the corridors. They had not been there before. When had they boarded the station? Sergeant Major Diego Reyes appeared on camera, leading a squad of human infantry toward the crashing invaders. He was smaller than the aliens, less armored, carrying a weapon that looked primitive compared to their technology. "Contact front," Reyes said calmly. "Weapons free." The humans opened fire. Crashin soldiers were monsters in close combat. They had conquered dozens of species. They feared nothing. They had never faced humans. Reyes took a plasma bolt to his shoulder. The wound would have killed a Villani instantly. He kept fighting, kept moving. His squad pushed forward into the Crashins, refusing to retreat even as they took casualties. A human soldier fell, 3 burns across her chest. Before she died, she threw a grenade into a Crashin squad. Her final act was to take enemies with her. Another human was stabbed through the stomach by a Crashin blade. He grabbed the alien's arm, held it in place, and shot the creature in the face before collapsing. Warden Olu stared at the feeds in silence. He had studied military forces across the galaxy. He had trained with the most disciplined armies the Coalition could produce. He had never seen anything like this. "They do not stop," he said quietly. "They are dying, and they do not stop." "No," Dr. Sharma replied. Her voice was heavy with something Sira could not identify. "Pride, perhaps, or grief. We do not." Within 20 minutes, the boarding action was over. Every Crashin soldier inside the station was dead. The humans had lost soldiers too, but they had held the line. Admiral Voss watched his shock troops fall and made a decision. His remaining ships pulled back, retreating behind the moon to regroup. He was not running. He was waiting. Colonel Okonkwo's voice came through the station speakers, steady and strong despite the losses her battalion had suffered. "All hands, stand down from immediate combat. Tend to the wounded. Repair what you can. This battle is not over." Sira found Commander Volkov staring out a viewport at the debris field that had once been Crashin warships. "He will return with more forces," she said. "Yes," Volkov replied. "How can you fight a war like this? How can you sacrifice so much for strangers?" Volkov turned to look at her. His human eyes were tired but determined. "Because if we do not, who will?" Sira had no answer. Behind the moon, Admiral Voss was already sending messages to his empire. More ships were coming. Many more, and the humans knew it. Blood still stained the corridors when the repairs began. Human engineers moved through Station Meridian, 7 with tools and purpose, sealing breaches, restoring power, reinforcing bulkheads that had been weakened by Crashin boarding pods. They worked in silence, stepping around bodies that had not yet been collected. Ambassador Sira watched them from the medical bay entrance. Inside, human doctors treated wounded soldiers from both species. A Draymari technician with a crushed limb lay beside a human sergeant missing half his arm. Both were conscious. Both were alive. "He should be dead," the station's chief medic said. The elderly Villani physician was examining the human sergeant with visible confusion. "This level of blood loss would kill any species I know." Dr. Sharma looked up from bandaging another patient. "Humans can survive losing up to 40% of our blood volume. We go into shock, but we stay conscious. We keep fighting. That is not natural," the physician whispered. "No," Sharma agreed. "But it is useful." Across the station, Colonel Okonkwo held a briefing in the command center. Sira arrived to find Commander Volkov, Warden Olu, and several human officers gathered around a tactical display. "Intelligence reports suggest Admiral Voss has called for reinforcements," Okonkwo said. Her voice was calm despite the situation. "A larger fleet is en route. Approximately 47 vessels. They will arrive in 18 hours. Silence filled the room. 47 ships, Warden Olu repeated. "Against your 17 survivors. The mathematics are impossible." "Then we change the mathematics," Lieutenant Hassan replied. She was young for a human officer, but her eyes held the same cold determination as her commander. Okonkwo gestured to the display. "We have 18 hours. That is enough time to fortify this station, repair our damaged vessels, and prepare defensive positions. The Crashins expect to find us weakened and afraid. We will give them something else entirely." "You cannot be serious," Sira said. "Reinforcements from the Coalition will arrive in 10 hours. We should evacuate and let the combined fleet handle this threat." Okonkwo turned to face the ambassador directly. "If we run, the Crashins take this system. Then they move to the next one. And the next. They do not stop because no one has ever stopped them. But the cost, Sira protested. Your soldiers are dying. More will die if we stay. Yes. Okonkwo's voice did not waver. That is the price of protection. We pay it willingly. The briefing ended. Officers dispersed to their duties. Engineers continued their repairs. Soldiers rested in shifts, sleeping with weapons beside them. Sira found Sergeant Major Reyes in a corridor, checking his squad's equipment. His shoulder was bandaged where the plasma bolt had struck him hours earlier. He moved carefully, obviously in pain, but he did not stop working. You should be in medical, Sira said. Reyes shrugged. Medical is full. Others need beds more than me. You are injured. I can still fight. He looked at her with those strange human eyes, brown and soft despite everything he had witnessed. That is all that matters right now. Sira did not understand. She had studied humans since they joined the coalition, read their history, analyzed their culture. Nothing had prepared her for this. Why do you do this? She asked. This station has no strategic value. We are not your people. Earth gains nothing from defending us. Reyes was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was distant, remembering something from long ago. My grandmother told me a story once. When she was young, her village was attacked by raiders. Everyone ran except one old man who stood in the road with a rusted knife. He knew he would die. He fought anyway, to give others time to escape. What happened to him? He died. But 63 people survived because of his sacrifice. Reyes met her eyes. Humans remember things like that. We tell those stories to our children. We teach them that some things are worth dying for. And protecting strangers is worth dying for. Especially strangers, Reyes replied. Anyone can protect their own family. It takes something more to protect someone you have never met. The 18 hours passed slowly. Human engineers worked without rest, converting salvaged crash and debris into weapons platforms. They mounted guns on the station's hull, reinforced docking bays, created kill zones in every corridor. Dr. Sharma helped coordinate supplies, ensuring every soldier had ammunition, every medic had bandages, every emergency station was stocked. Commander Volkov trained station security officers alongside human troops, teaching them formations and tactics that might keep them alive when fighting resumed. And through it all, Warden Olu watched the humans with growing understanding that he approached Okonkwo near the end of their preparations. I have commanded security forces for 30 cycles. I thought I understood warfare. I did not. Okonkwo looked at him, waiting. Your species does not fight to survive, Olu continued. You fight to win. There is a difference I never appreciated before. Survival is a goal, Okonkwo agreed. Victory is a mindset. We train our soldiers to accept death as possible while refusing to accept defeat as inevitable. How? Olu asked. How do you create such warriors? Okonkwo smiled slightly. We do not create them. We simply remind them what they are fighting for. Everyone here has something they love. Family, friends, home. They fight knowing that if they fail, those things are threatened. But we are not their family. We are strangers. You were strangers, Okonkwo corrected. Now you are under our protection. That makes you ours to defend. The long-range sensors began to flash with warnings. Olu looked at the display showing the approaching Krashen fleet. 47 warships. A massive dreadnought at their center. Death coming at light speed. They are here, he said. Okonkwo nodded and activated the station-wide communication system. All hands, this is Colonel Okonkwo. The enemy has arrived. Battle stations. Hold the line. We do not retreat. We do not surrender. Today we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. The station shuddered as weapon systems came online. The second wave had begun. 47 stars of death filled the void. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of his dreadnought, watching the tiny human fleet through the viewport. His reinforcements had arrived. His shame would be erased. These strange, stubborn creatures would learn what happened to those who defied the Krashen dominion. All ships, attack formation, he commanded. Leave nothing alive. On Station Meridian 7, alarms screamed through every corridor. Ambassador Sira gripped the edge of a console as the first volley struck the station's new shields. The entire structure shook, but it held. Shields at 87%. Lieutenant Hassan reported from the human command vessel. Station defenses are holding. Colonel Okonkwo's voice came through the speakers, steady as stone. All wings engage. Remember your training. Make every shot count. 17 human ships moved against nearly 50 crashing vessels. The mathematics were impossible. The odds were suicide. The humans attacked anyway. Sira watched the tactical display in horrified fascination. Human ships darted through enemy formations, using maneuvers that should have torn them apart. They fired from angles the Crashians could not predict, disappearing behind the moon and emerging where enemies least expected. Delta Wing, slingshot maneuver. Use the moon's gravity well. For human destroyers dove toward the moon, accelerating to speeds that strained their hulls. They whipped around the satellite, emerging at 3 times their normal velocity, and tore through a crashing cruiser before the enemy could respond. But the Crashians had numbers. And numbers mattered. A human frigate exploded under concentrated fire. Another lost its engines and drifted, helpless. Colonel Okonkwo ordered rescue pods to retrieve the survivors, even as battle raged around them. "We are losing," Warden Olu said quietly. He stood beside Sira, watching the tactical display with compound eyes that missed nothing. Dr. Sharma shook her head. "No, we are fighting. There is no difference when the outcome is certain." "There is always a difference," Sharma replied. "Watch." The human destroyer Relentless had taken critical damage. Its weapons were offline. Its engine sputtered. A crashing carrier was moving to finish it off. Instead of retreating, the Relentless turned toward the enemy. "What are they doing?" Olu asked. The destroyer accelerated, pushing its dying engines to maximum power. It aimed directly at the crashing carrier, a vessel 10 times its size. A final transmission came from the Relentless. Captain Yuki Tanaka's voice was calm, almost peaceful. "No retreat. No surrender. Meridian holds." The destroyer struck the carrier at full speed. Both ships vanished in a ball of fire. Sira felt her heart stop. She had watched soldiers die before, but never like this. Never so willingly, so deliberately, for people who were not even their own species. "Why?" she whispered. "Why would they do that?" Sharma's eyes were wet, but her voice did not break. "Because they believed it was right. Because they decided that your lives were worth their sacrifice." The destruction of the carrier sent shockwaves through the crashing fleet. Other human ships pressed the attack, exploiting the confusion. More crashing vessels fell, but so did more human ones. Admiral Voss watched his advantage slipping away and screamed at his captains. "They are fewer than us. They are weaker than us. Kill them all." But his fleet was shaking. The Crashians had conquered species that fled at the first sign of resistance. They had never faced an enemy that chose death over retreat. One crashing captain broke formation and ran. Then another. Then 3 more. "Cowards," Voss roared. "Return to formation, or I will destroy you myself." His threats meant nothing. Fear had broken his fleet's morale. Colonel Okonkwo saw the opportunity. "All ships, concentrate fire on the dreadnought. Target their weapon systems. We end this now." The remaining human vessels turned as one, forming a spearhead aimed at Admiral Voss's flagship. They advanced through waves of defensive fire, losing ships with every kilometer gained, but they kept coming. "Impossible," Voss hissed. "How are they still fighting?" On the station, Warden Olu finally understood. He had asked the wrong question when he studied human warfare. He had asked how humans created such warriors. The truth was simpler and more terrible. Humans did not create warriors. They were all warriors. Every farmer who protected their land. Every parent who shielded their child. Every stranger who stopped to help someone in need. Humans were born from a world that tried to kill them every day, and they had survived by refusing to give up. The dreadnought shuddered under concentrated human fire. Systems failed. Weapons went dark. Admiral Voss watched his flagship dying around him and felt something he had not experienced in 40 years of conquest: fear. "All ships, retreat," he ordered. "All ships, retreat immediately." The crashing fleet scattered, jumping away in panicked disorder. Only the crippled dreadnought remained, too damaged to flee. Colonel Okonkwo's voice echoed across all channels. "Admiral Voss, this is Colonel Okonkwo of the Earth Unified Forces. Your fleet has been defeated. Your ship is disabled. You will surrender immediately, or we will destroy you." Silence stretched across the void. Then Voss's response came, bitter and broken. "I surrender. But I demand to meet whoever commands your forces. I must understand what kind of monsters could fight like this." "Agreed," Okonkwo replied. "Prepare to be boarded." In the control room of Station Meridian 7, Ambassador Sira collapsed into a chair. Her feathers were shaking. Her hearts were racing. She had witnessed the impossible. Dr. Sharma sat beside her, exhausted but alive. It is over. Is it? Sira asked. His empire will send more forces. This cannot truly be the end. Sharma smiled, tired and sad and proud all at once. Then we will fight again, as many times as it takes. Sira looked at the human scientist with new eyes. She had thought she understood this strange species. She had been wrong. You are terrifying, she said softly, and wonderful, and I do not know how to feel about either. Sharma took her hand, a human gesture of comfort that Sira had never experienced before. Feel grateful, Sharma said. You asked for backup, and we came. Outside the viewport, rescue pods collected survivors from destroyed human ships. So many had died. So many had given everything, and not one of them had retreated. Admiral Voss stood in chains on his own bridge. The dreadnought's emergency lighting cast harsh shadows across walls that had once symbolized crash and supremacy. Smoke still drifted through damaged corridors. The bodies of fallen crew members lay where they had fallen, not yet collected. Colonel Okonkwo walked through the carnage without expression. Sergeant Major Reyes followed 3 steps behind, his weapon ready despite the Admiral's surrender. Trust was earned, not given. Voss watched the human commander approach. She was smaller than him, weaker, softer. Her species had no natural weapons, no armored scales, no venom. And yet she had destroyed his fleet. You wanted to understand, Okonkwo said. She stopped 5 meters from the Admiral, studying him like a scientist examining a specimen. Ask your questions. Voss's translator crackled with his bitter words. What are you? My empire has conquered 300 species. We have faced warriors bred for combat, soldiers enhanced with technology beyond your understanding. None have fought like your people. We are human, Okonkwo replied simply. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that matters. Okonkwo began to pace slowly, her boots echoing on the metal deck. You want to know our secret. You want to understand how we defeated a superior force with inferior numbers. Voss nodded, his scales rippling with frustration. Your ships are not better than ours. Your weapons are not stronger. Your soldiers are not larger or faster. Yet we broke against you like waves against stone. Because you came here to take, Okonkwo said. We came here to protect. There is a difference. Sentiment, Voss spat. War is not won with feelings. Okonkwo smiled, and there was nothing warm in the expression. You think protecting the weak is a weakness. That is why you lost. She gestured to the broken bridge around them. Your soldiers fight for conquest, for glory, for the rewards that come with victory. When victory seems impossible, they retreat. When death seems certain, they flee. And yours do not. My soldiers fight for the people behind them, Okonkwo said. 3,000 civilians on that station. Scientists, doctors, families, species your empire would enslave or slaughter. My soldiers knew that if they retreated, those people would die. She stepped closer, close enough that Voss could see the exhaustion in her eyes and the steel beneath it. Humans learned long ago that some things are worth dying for. Not conquest, not glory, protection. We evolved on a world that tried to kill us every day. We survived because we protected each other. That instinct is in our bones. Voss was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something that might have been curiosity. And the station? Those aliens are not your people. They are not your family. Why die for strangers? Because they asked for help, Okonkwo replied. That is all any species has ever needed to do. Ask and we come. It does not matter if we have never met you. It does not matter if your world is on the far side of the galaxy. If you need protection and you call for us, we answer. That is madness, Voss said. That is humanity. Sergeant Major Reyes stepped forward with restraints for the Admiral. Voss did not resist as his wrists were bound. His fight was over. What happens now? Voss asked. Will you execute me? Make an example. Okonkwo shook her head. You will be turned over to coalition authorities for trial. Your surviving ships will be allowed to leave. Allowed to leave? Voss stared at her in confusion. We attacked you. We killed your soldiers. Why would you let us go? Because I want your crews to carry a message home. Okonkwo's voice hardened to iron. Every ship you send against coalition space will be destroyed. Every soldier you land will die. Every system you threaten becomes ours to protect. You can keep coming. We will keep fighting. We do not stop. We do not retreat. We do not surrender." She leaned close enough for Voss to see the fire burning in her human eyes. "Tell your empire what happened here. Tell them about the species that refused to break. Tell them that the next time they attack coalition allies, humanity will be waiting." Voss was led away in chains, but his eyes never left Okonkwo. He had conquered worlds. He had broken armies. He had never been afraid. He was afraid now. On Station Meridian 7, the surviving crew gathered in the central hub. Humans and aliens stood together, some wounded, all exhausted, none defeated. Ambassador Sira had prepared a memorial for the fallen human soldiers. She stood before the crowd, searching for words that could capture what she had witnessed. "We asked for backup," she began, her voice trembling. "Do you understand what that means in coalition terms? Backup is a few ships, a token force, something to delay an enemy until real help arrives." She looked at the humans in the crowd. Colonel Okonkwo, Sergeant Major Reyes, Dr. Sharma, Commander Volkov, soldiers and scientists who had risked everything for strangers. Humanity did not send backup. They sent their children, their warriors, their best. They watched them die for people they had never met, and they did not waver. Tears rolled down her feathered cheeks. She did not wipe them away. That is not backup. That is family. The crowd was silent. Humans and aliens, predators and prey, warriors and civilians. All of them had seen something that changed how they understood the galaxy. Commander Volkov stepped forward and placed a human hand on Sira's shoulder. "We protect what is ours," he said simply. "You are ours now." Sira finally understood. Humanity did not see species. They did not see strangers. They saw people who needed help, and for that, they would fight to the last soldier. Outside the viewport, debris from the battle still drifted through space. The wreckage of human and crashing ships mixed together, impossible to separate. But Station Meridian 7 stood intact, and it would keep standing as long as humanity watched over it. 6 months had passed since the Battle of Meridian. The crashing diplomatic vessel drifted toward Coalition headquarters, its weapons powered down, its shields lowered. White flags of surrender marked every visible surface. The crew inside had traveled for weeks to deliver a message their empire had never expected to send. Ambassador Sira stood in the greeting chamber, wearing formal robes that marked her new position. After the battle, the coalition had appointed her as special liaison to human affairs. No one understood humanity better than someone who had watched them fight. "The Krashans are requesting formal peace negotiations," a Draymari aide reported. "Their opening statement has already been transmitted." Sira read the words on her display and felt a smile spread across her face. "We wish to discuss avoiding any further misunderstandings with Earth." The Krashan Empire, conquerors of 300 worlds, had used the word misunderstandings. They were afraid. They had seen what happened at Meridian, and they wanted no part of another war with humanity. Colonel Okonkwo arrived an hour later, wearing a formal uniform covered in medals she had earned over 2 decades of service. Her hair had more gray than before the battle. Her eyes held the same steel. "Ambassador," she said, nodding respectfully. "I hear the Krashans want to make friends. They want to make sure humanity never attacks their territory," Sira corrected. "They have not struck a single coalition system since Meridian." "Good." Okonkwo looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. "We did not want war with them. We wanted them to stop hurting people. And they have." Sira joined her at the window. 300 species enslaved by the Dominion are now receiving humanitarian aid. 40 occupied worlds have been granted independence. The Empire is crumbling because no one fears them anymore. "They saw weakness," Okonkwo said quietly. "At Meridian, we showed them what happens when predators become prey." Sira nodded. She had spent the past 6 months studying the aftermath of the battle. The reports from Krashan space painted a picture of an empire in chaos. Conquered species were rising up. Enslaved populations were demanding freedom. And through it all, one word echoed across their communications: humans, the monster soldiers who could not be killed, the mad warriors who sacrificed themselves for strangers, the species that did not retreat. "I have a question I never asked you," Sira said. "After the battle, why did you let the Krashan ships escape? You could have destroyed them all." Okonkwo turned to look at her. "Because dead enemies tell no stories." I needed those crews to go home and describe what they had seen. I needed their captains to report how we fought. Fear spreads faster than any weapon. You used mercy as a weapon, Syrah realized. I used survival as a message. Okonkwo's voice was hard, but not cruel. Every Crashan who escaped Meridian became a warning to their empire. They told their leaders, their families, their soldiers. They spread the truth about what happens when you attack our allies. The diplomatic session began an hour later. Crashan representatives sat across from coalition delegates, including 3 human observers who said nothing but watched everything. The negotiations lasted 12 days. By the end, the Crashan Empire had agreed to withdraw from all contested systems, release all enslaved populations, and pay reparations to species they had harmed. But the most important concession was the simplest. Any attack on coalition-affiliated systems will be considered an attack on Earth, the final treaty stated. Humanity claims the right to defend any species that requests their protection. Syrah was present when Admiral Voss signed the document. He had been released from prison for the ceremony, his scales dulled with age and defeat. He pressed his claw to the agreement without looking at the human representatives. "You have won," he said bitterly. "Your strange species has changed the galaxy." Commander Volkov, who had accompanied the delegation from Station Meridian 7, stepped forward. "We did not change anything. We simply reminded everyone what was always true. And what is that? That the strong should protect the weak. That helping strangers is not weakness, but strength. That some things are worth fighting for, even when victory seems impossible." Voss stared at him for a long moment. "You are either the noblest species in the galaxy or the most dangerous." "Yes," Volkov agreed. "We are." 1 year after the Battle of Meridian, a memorial was built on Station Meridian 7. It stood in the central hub where the crew had gathered after the fighting ended, a simple structure of stone and light bearing the names of every soldier who had died protecting strangers. Ambassador Syrah visited often. She would stand before the names and remember the faces she had seen on security feeds. Humans fighting through wounds that should have killed them. Humans sacrificing themselves without hesitation. Humans who had traveled across the stars to answer a distress call from people they had never met. Dr. Sharma found her there one evening, staring at the names in the fading light. "Remembering?" Sharma asked. "Always." Syrah touched one of the names carved into the stone. Captain Yuki Tanaka of the destroyer Relentless. The woman who had driven her dying ship into a Crashan carrier rather than retreat. "I still do not fully understand your people. We do not fully understand ourselves," Sharma admitted. "Humans have done terrible things throughout our history. Wars, cruelty, destruction. But we have also done beautiful things. We have protected the helpless. We have sacrificed for strangers. We have reached for stars we could never touch." She placed her hand beside Syrah's on the memorial. "Perhaps that is what makes us human. Not our strength or our weakness, but our choice. We can be monsters or we can be guardians. At Meridian, we chose to be guardians." Syrah looked at her friend with eyes that had seen too much and learned even more. "We asked for backup," she said softly. "Humanity sent a full battalion. Not because we were strategically important. Not because you had something to gain. But because someone needed help." She turned to face the stars visible through the viewport, the endless darkness that had once seemed so empty and cold. "And you never learned how to say no to that." Sharma smiled, tired and proud and human. "No," she agreed. "We never did." Somewhere in the void, a new distress call was going out. Another species, another crisis, another moment when someone needed protection. And somewhere in the darkness, humanity was already answering.